not just a distro. Bryen has traveled extensively giving talks on accessibility. He has also the distinction of being the first ever deaf and blind person to sit on the board of a major Linux distribution. Without further ado, I give you Bryen.Yunashko.
Thank you. Did he say my name right?
Close.
Okay. So we're here today to talk a little bit about openSUSE. And before we do that, I want to thank the Flourish Conference for inviting us. Okay, so for inviting us to speak here at this conference. I am a little embarrassed to say that I've been here for all my life, and I never actually knew that the Flourish Conference was here, and so I'm going to make sure that that doesn't happen again. I'm going to try to make sure to keep coming every year. You guys have a lot of great spirit here, and I'm looking forward to seeing this conference grow. So, we want to talk a little bit about openSUSE, and when most people think of openSUSE, they think of it as a distribution, an operating system that you put onto your machine. But that's really not what openSUSE is all about. The distro is just one of many different products that we provide to the community. And, you know, I just want to talk a little bit about why the project. If you read a lot of the media out there, they always say the distro is dead, the distro is dead. And from an initial viewpoint, it may be correct because all these different distros are starting to look alike. They all offer many of the same programs. They all offer many of the same main desktop environments like KDE, GNOME, and whatnot. And it gets harder to understand why we should pick one over the other. But there is a reason why you should pick one over the other, and that is about the philosophy and the implementation of the group that provides a particular distribution. Because it is all about how we work together as a team, as a community, as an outreach to the world to provide free and open source software. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how we work in the openSUSE community. We have guiding principles that we've created since the start of the openSUSE project, which was about 7 years ago. Although the openSUSE distribution is actually about 20 years old. It's been around since the early 90s. I forget the exact date, but we are one of the first to be out there. And we have guiding principles that basically tell us how we want to behave, how we want to work with others, and how we want to welcome people into the community. And basically it just says, you know, do good with each other and make things as easy to implement as possible. Last year, we went a little step further and created an actual strategy statement to really define what openSUSE is all about, because a lot of people have been asking, okay, well, why should I choose openSUSE? And we try to identify the kind of target audience that we are looking to meet. And particularly in this case, what we've found is that most of our users are professional users, multitasking users, looking for stability, and developers. We found that a lot of people like developing on openSUSE platform. So we said, okay, that is our strategy, that is our target, and that is how we move forward. So the first thing we want to do is make sure that we have lower barriers for contribution. Now, I'm not here to disparage all the other distributions that are out there. Everybody works together in different ways, and I think that every distribution that's out there has a very valuable contribution to free and open source software. But there are unique differences between each of the different providers. And if you look on the chart, there's a breakdown of how a contributor becomes a contributor for a different distribution. You have to sign agreements. You have to go through an apprenticeship. You have to go through all these steps, and some of them are more stringent than others. And it, it makes it harder for people to contribute and develop right off the bat. By contrast, our philosophy is simply just do it. And we provide the tool to make collaboration automated through what is called our OpenBuild Service. And I will cover that in just a short while. But the thing of it is, we believe that people want to contribute. People have limited time because not everybody in open source software can work 24/7. And to have to go through this long process to get even approved to be a contributor just lowers the barrier, and we want free and open source software to grow even beyond our own barriers. So those are the key differences of what we do for a contributor as opposed to other projects out there. And of course, I'm just talking a lot of words that maybe you don't quite understand, but I would actually like to introduce Shayan, who is a member of our project, and he's been contributing since he's been in high school, actually, when he was living in India. And he's still around, and I think he will be one of the good insights we can talk about for a few minutes about why he found openSUSE to be an easy place to work with. If you think this one?
Let's see.
Why don't you come on over here so everybody sees how good looking you are.
Hello. Well, hi. Like Bryan said, I'm Shayan, and I've been involved with openSUSE since I was 16. I'm 19 right now, so it's been 3 years. openSUSE was my first Linux distribution, and I used it was that's when I actually entered the open source world. Initially, at the age of 16, I had no idea about any programming languages or any development tools, but openSUSE was really easy for me to get into. I was initially a Windows user, but a few things didn't make sense to me, so I always ended up bugging people into IRCs or mailing list. And I must say, we got a great community there. People are actually willing to help rather than directing you to any how-to pages or any documentation. Or rather being rude and saying a noob or something. Well, I'm still a noob. But people are actually take interest in your problem. They help you around. If they don't have time, they'll tell you that come back sometime, or they'll actually guide you to a right place and do all kind of stuff. And then lately, I actually got into the wiki, and that's something interested me. So at the age of 16, I was, or 17, I was actually contributing towards the wiki because, like Bryan mentioned, it's really easy to contribute something. There's always places for improvements in the openSUSE community, and if you find something that there's a bug or something, and if you see that there's no actually maintainer or packager for that, I would say just volunteer for it, and you will actually find people helping you again. So at the age of 17, I started contributing my 2 cents towards the wiki. And I would agree, I did make a couple of mistakes here and there, messing around the wiki or breaking some things. And there were people who actually guided me again and pointed towards the right direction. One of those are actually in this room right now. That's Rajko sitting right there. And so yeah, so we were in a transitioning process, transitioning the old wiki into the new wiki, and I had a really great time there. But when I moved to US for my computer science degree, I lost touch into openSUSE, but then again, I moved back in, and I currently help develop the openSUSE Summit website. It's off of a Ruby. We use Nanoc, a static site generator tool there. And again, I started contributing towards openSUSE. And what kept me going was the ease of use when it comes to developments, such as setting up a Rails application, or just using basic Ruby, or setting up a web framework like Django in Python. I would say it's really easy. Well, you often come across some bugs or something, but like I said, there's a great community there helping you. But apart from that, the development, I have used Ubuntu, or I'm not, again, trying to put anyone down here, but I have personally, I've had a lot many issues when working with Debian packages or somewhere, but in terms of openSUSE, it's been really easy, and things have been really flexible in openSUSE, and since we had our latest release 12.1, yeah, it has been really great developing, so. But yeah, apart from that, I really enjoy building for openSUSE, developing for openSUSE, and working, and looking forward to work for it. Thank you, and I'll pass the floor to Bryen now.
Do you have any questions for Shayan
any
about
questions?
His experiences?
Nope.
I guess you spoke pretty well then.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shayan. So you kind of get an idea of how we have a lot of different philosophies and what we do and why we do it. Now I want to talk about what we actually provide to the community. The first thing we know about is that DVD that I hope most of you have in your hand before you leave today. We make it a target to professional users, developers. I believe Shayan mentioned that a lot of the developer tools are easier to find on openSUSE than on other distributions. We make sure that you have most of the tools you need to create your unique project. We also are a distribution that ships 4 desktop environments within your DVD. You get GNOME, you get KDE, you get LXDE, you get XFCE. Those are all things that we get right out of the box, and most other distributions do not provide that. They give you a preferred desktop environment, and then if you want to add another environment, you have to go out and download it or find another CD. We don't believe in that. We believe that you should have the freedom to choose what you want when you install your operating system. We want you to have all the choices right up front, and you pick what you want. And we contribute heavily to the development of many of these desktop environments as well. So the next thing I want to talk about is one that may be of interest to many of you who are students here and creating your own unique software project. We have what's called an OpenBuild Service. It is a packaging environment. We use it completely to build our openSUSE distribution. We compile all these different packages and they come together into one final distribution. But the unique thing about OpenBuild Service is it's not designed for openSUSE. It's designed for everybody. You can create packages for Fedora. You can create packages for Ubuntu. You can create packages for Windows. And you can create on different architectures. You can create on 32-bit systems, 64-bit systems, ARM processors. We have a lot of different environments that you can create. And this is a really good tool for many of you who are trying to promote your own project. If you've ever gone to an upstream project's website, one of the things that always got on my nerves is I will look and see what package to download, and I'll see, okay, there's an openSUSE package, there's a Ubuntu package, maybe there's a Fedora package, but they don't have all the packages. And the reason for that is because developers don't have the time to go packaging every single distribution out there. But here with OBS, we can actually make that happen for you. And what that does is it helps you to get your software out to as many people as possible. And that's really a good thing for you guys. It's sort of like a built-in marketing tool for you to use. And we're not the only ones that use this. We have a number of developers who create packages for Fedora. We are seeing more and more Ubuntu developers create packages for Ubuntu. The Linux Foundation has installed their own instance of OBS. Dell computers, they use this for distributing the packages that go onto their operating system. There are a growing number of companies out there. LibreOffice, what you used to know as OpenOffice, is we forked it to LibreOffice, that they used OBS. It's a very powerful and easy-to-use tool that you can use on a website or at the command line. Both ways work. And it is probably a developer's dream come true, in my opinion. So I would hope you go check it out sometime, openbuildservice.org. The next one I want to talk about is OpenQA. This is a fairly new project that was also created by a contributing developer in the community, where they were just basically trying to test out and make sure that the distribution is ready for release. And they would do automated testing to find out if how many errors there are and whether it's time to release the next milestone or not. I don't know too much about how it works yet, but it is also created as a tool to be used for just about any distribution that's out there. That is the basis of what we do. Everything we create goes to the community. We don't keep it just to benefit openSUSE. So if you wanted to install OpenQA for your particular environment or your distribution, it's there for you. YAST is a very popular tool that we use to manage the installation of our openSUSE. It is a simple module pluggable system where you can control everything from how your desktop environment works to how your bootloader runs or how your processes work, your init scripts. It just about covers almost everything that's out there. If you want to install a web server, you can do that through YAST. It just simplifies the whole concept. And the interesting thing about YAST is, I said earlier that, there's very little distinction being noted by people between the different distributions that are out there. But time after time again, when I read some positive review or some comparison of openSUSE with some other distribution, these reviewers will almost always say, everything is on parity, we like them both just the same, but there's one thing that we like better, and it was that openSUSE had YAST. That's what made it over the top for us. And the interesting thing about it, it doesn't have to be a unique openSUSE thing, because YAST is also open source, and if somebody else wanted to take it and put it on their distribution, it's there for you to use. It's open source. So the other popular thing that's going on these days is, and it's something that makes it very easy for even the most non-technical user, well, maybe not really non-technical, but fairly knowledgeable, is to create your own distribution. And we do it through a web-based interface, and soon it will be through command line. Users go in and you get the base of your distribution in place. And you add the packages that you want, and you customize it exactly the way you want. And you can then give it out to your friends, or you create it for your unique company environment. It's all very easy. We've got thousands of images out there that are created exclusively by SUSE Studio. So how many times do we offer to install Linux on our neighbor's system? And of course, with your particular Linux version, you don't have everything that you need because of certain patent laws and whatnot, like you can't have certain hardware, software drivers for wireless, for example. But if you created a specific DVD that's just your own image that works exactly the way you want for your friends and neighbors and family or your co-workers, you can do that right here very easily. We have some very successful stuff that's out there too. For example, we have EduLife, which is a distribution from openSUSE community that creates, that has about 800 educational-based software that students can use to practice their studies Parents can use it to work with their kids when they're doing their homework and whatnot. This EduLife was actually the basis for one of the netbook versions that HP released a few years ago, because they just liked the fact that they could create a education-focused netbook, and we had over 800 packages in there ready for them to use. So that's that. But we also do partnerships. One of the new exciting partnerships that's going on right now is AppStream, which was created by a openSUSE contributor who also has created the own cloud software. And basically, it's a way of delivering software to end users. And he talked about it at one of our conferences a couple of years ago. And we said, ooh, this is really good. So we actually funded a hack session to make this happen. And that we did that like within a month after we started talking about it. And within about 2 months, we started to see other distributions, other upstream projects come together and contribute and join this Hackfest that we funded. And I will admit, we were not actually the first ones to use AppStream. Linux Mint was one of the first to use AppStream. So, and it doesn't actually bother us, because our intent is to make sure that we help create a more open environment in the world for open source. So if we benefit and somebody else benefits, then it's a win-win situation. We are also partnering heavily with the ARM company to create an openSUSE-based ARM computer. We will be featured at the upcoming ARM Tech Conference in Santa Clara later this year. I think that's in November. They are working very closely with us. We are getting a lot of noise out there about the work we're doing on this. And then there's the community. That's another reason why we are together. We are actually a very fun community. We've had several conferences already in the last few years, and every one of these conferences is just all about fun and collaboration. We don't just sit around and listen to presentations day after day. We actually sit around in a circle and we talk about what do we want to do, how do we want to move forward, and we invite other upstream projects to come together with us and share what their experiences are and how we can help them and how they can help us. And it's a very fun, collaborative environment. And then at the end of the day, we do some pretty fun stuff. You know, last time in Germany, we had a mechanical bull. So we just had a lot of fun, you know. And just to do a little bit of advertising here, but if you would like to actually get involved or just see how this community works, I would like to invite you to the openSUSE Summit, which will be in Orlando, Florida. This is the first time that we will have a conference here in the United States. I'm actually one of the co-chairs of this event, and we just actually announced it 2 days ago, and it is already getting a lot of excitement. A lot of great talk already being proposed, and it's just going to be a lot of fun, and you're going to see some great people if you go down there. And the other thing I keep telling people is how often do you get to meet Geeko, our beloved mascot, and Mickey Mouse in the same city. So, you know, this is a chance of a lifetime. I would suggest you go. But if you want just one more reason to go, we do have one very unique thing that also other projects don't have. We have our own beer. And it is actually a pretty good beer. There's a small monastery just outside of Nuremberg, Germany. The German name is just, I can't pronounce the whole name, but it is a very nice small monastery about a 30-minute ride from Nuremberg. And they said, you know, we like what you guys are doing. We want to get involved. Let's make some beer for you guys. And the great tradition of Voss, how do you say no to beer, right? So we have our own beer, and we are planning to have a good stash available at the summit too. So I think that's another reason to come on down. And so that concludes my introduction to you of what the openSUSE project is really all about. And I would hope that you would have a chance to try it out and explore the different things. We are a very open community, and we are looking forward to working with you on your project. By the way, one last thing. I assume a number of you are students here at University of Illinois, or maybe elsewhere as well. If you're familiar with the Google Code of Summer program, the deadline is this coming Friday, I believe, April 6th. And we have had some very successful projects. So if you are looking for a place to do a project, you have a one-week deadline, and I believe we have flyers on the booth table if you want to stop by and grab a flyer so you can get some more information about it. I think it's a great project for you, opportunity for you. If I'm not mistaken, a student who works over the summer will make about $2,500 for their work. So I'm sure students could use a few bucks, so that's it. The flyers are on the table in the booth? Okay. And that concludes my talk. I want to thank Flourish and all of you for bearing through this hour-long session. And if you have any questions, I'm here for you. Otherwise, thank you and have a great weekend.
Question for you, please. Can you tell me about how openSUSE and the accessibility piece of it, are you doing anything in particular spearheading it, or are you doing anything in the area of making it better for people with that needs accessibility?
You're talking about accessibility software? Is that what you're asking about? How we do?
Like yourself, in the situation of yourself, how do you, what is openSUSE doing to help you better help, use the coding and so on?
Okay. All right. All right. Well, I use the GNOME desktop, and I use it for two reasons. One, because it seems to be an easy environment for me to work with, but also because GNOME is actually the leader in providing accessibility software for open source. And because of that, GNOME provides us with the best possibility for breaking through the glass ceiling of the corporate world and the government world. We have a lot of great software in GNOME. Like, for example, we have Orca, which is a screen reader for the blind. Earlier today, some of you may have been to the GNOME session where Meg Ford was talking about some of the work she's done. She's been contributing by developing new high contrast icons to make it easier for people like me to be able to see the desktop. There's just a ton of great stuff on GNOME. So if you are looking for a good cost-effective way to deliver accessibility to your users or maybe to some family member, take a look at GNOME. Just as a quick comparison, the GNOME Orca program is the basic equivalent of the JAWS program on Windows. And on Windows, if you want to buy this software, it costs $1,200. Orca is free. And that makes a big difference in making sure that we can make accessibility a reality in so many different places around the world, especially in third world countries, where so many people with disabilities are ignored because the countries just simply can't afford to subsidize the software. And here, even in the United States, we are spending a crap load of money on government subsidies for software when the government ought to be looking closely at open source as an alternative to providing good accessibility software for our community out there. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, well, thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this Flourish conference. And thank you again to the tech people here for setting things up here. Have a good night.